Hello, thank you for joining us. This is former Geauga County Commissioner Jim Mueller, and I'll be moderating tonight's free live town hall meeting to talk about serious threats to the future of our county parks as well as the heroin epidemic. Tonight, Geauga County Commissioner candidate Ron Weish will be sharing his vision to protect our county from these challenges. We are also joined by Gene Berkhammer, a drug counselor who sees the impacts of heroin epidemic every day, and Jim Bissell from the Cleveland Natural History Museum, who is an expert on our parks. Most importantly, though, we want to hear from you and answer your questions and share your ideas. While we wait briefly for some more people to join us, please know that you can ask a question anytime by simply pressing 0 on your phone's keypad. I hope you will all ask a lot of questions. For those of you who are joining us, this is former County Commissioner Jim Mueller, and I'll be moderating this live town hall meeting on the serious threats to the future of our county parks and the destructive impacts that heroin epidemic is having on Geauga County families. Geauga County Commissioner candidate Ron Weish will be sharing his vision to protect our county from these challenges. Gene Berkhammer, an experienced drug counselor, is also joining us to talk about the heroin epidemic, and Jim Bissell from the Cleveland Natural History Museum is here to talk about our parks. Most importantly, though, we want to hear from you, answer your questions, and share your ideas. So please press 0 on your phone keypad at any time to ask a question. And with that, let me hand this over for some brief remarks from County Commissioner candidate Ron Weish.
Thank you for the opportunity to share my vision and the things I will do as your Geauga County Commissioner to protect the high quality of life that's important to all of us. First, as a lifelong resident, I can tell you that this is one of the best places in the country to live. Beautiful parks, great schools, the perfect blend of rural character, strong families, and great neighborhoods. Serving on Middlefield City Council for 5 years, I know what it takes to protect quality of life. From balanced budget to sound fiscal management to smart economic growth, we can make a difference. When I came into office, many buildings in Middlefield were empty and aging, but I partnered with others and we filled those buildings, creating jobs and combating blight. Smart, responsible, and accountable government starts by putting the future in this county first. Political ideology is a nice luxury, but when the rubber meets the road, it's about working together to solve the challenges we face. As County Commissioner, I will listen and work with residents, elected officials, anyone committed to moving our county forward. For example, Mary Samiti is someone who I happen to agree with on many issues, and adding a new perspective to the Commission helps us move our county forward. And protecting our county is about more than what happens in the Commissioners' chambers. It's about protecting the things that make our county so great, like our parks. Working closely with the Park Board, I will ensure that they are making decisions that benefit all of us, today and for generations to come. I will work to safeguard all county property from destructive impacts of drilling, injection wells, and fracking. The charter and beauty, the character and beauty of this county are not worth the cost. Sure, we face challenges, but there's no need for radical change. I will work with sportsmen, hunters, residents to find common sense solutions that will work for all of us, not just a few. But all of this is irrelevant unless we can protect what is most important, our families, our kids. Heroin is destroying lives and tearing families apart. In just the past 2 weeks alone, 10 overdoses have occurred, and in the past year, approximately 90 lives have been lost. There is no easy solution, but as a 30-year volunteer who helped people overcome serious drug and alcohol problems, I will conduct a top-to-bottom review of all county programs in place, work with law enforcement, and find smart, lasting solutions to combat this horrible epidemic and the destructive impact it has on Geauga families. The future of our county couldn't be more important to me. The last thing we need is radical change. We need smart, sound government that protects seniors, families, our communities, and our county. As Geauga County Commissioner, I will work tirelessly for you. I respectfully ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. All I can say is that you are definitely the best person to be our next Geauga County Commissioner. You have my vote, and I would guess that many, many more of the residents who are on the line also will be voting for you. Speaking of which, we need to hear from you. If you have a question for Ron or anyone on our panel, please press 0 on your phone at any time. We are also joined by Jean Berkhammer, a drug counselor who sees the real-life impacts of heroin is having on nearly every person in our county.
Good evening. I am Jean Berkhammer. I have seen countless numbers of individuals, couples, and families for decades that have been directly or indirectly affected by drug, alcohol abuse in general. Most of us do not realize what an epidemic proportion the heroin and opiate addiction is in our county, right next door to us, tearing families apart. This is a problem that affects all of us, even those of us that keep our heads in the sand and blame the poor, uneducated, or lower-level individuals. Most of the individuals that I have seen for assessments or therapy are not in one of these less respected levels. Their chances of success are no better or worse than anyone else because it is not a question of intelligence or status. Whether subjected to trauma, violence, discord and instabilities in their families, unfulfilled goals and relationships, the impact is devastating for most.
Thank you, Jean. As a reminder, Election Day is Tuesday, November 4th, and early voting is already underway. We need to elect Ron Weish as our next Geauga County Commissioner to protect our county. Also, if you have a question for Ron or anyone on our panel, please press 0 on your phone at any time. In a minute, we're going to hear from Jim Bissell from the Cleveland Natural History Museum, who's an expert on our parks. But first, let's take a quick question from someone on the phone. Ben, what's your question?
Thank you. I'm concerned about the drug epidemic, but I'm also concerned about the qualifications of commissioners because to fight the drug epidemic, you have to know something about what you're fighting. And I'm wondering what qualifications does Mr. Weish have that would qualify him to help Geauga County fight this epidemic?
Thank you, Ben. I've been a volunteer at the Geauga County Safety Center for 29 years. You know, getting ready to be 30 years here pretty quick. I've worked with people that are incarcerated that have a direct impact due to drugs and alcohol. What we try to do is we try to get them to understand that there is a better way of life and that you can be prosperous again in life and you can be part of the community. All you have to do is we need to work together. Not only while you're in jail, but once you get out. One of the things we need to do is create some transitional housing so we can get the people in there, change their environment, because generally they go into treatment, they come back out, they go back in the same environment, and next thing we know, they're relapsing again. So it's something that I will definitely work hard to do to help our people in Geauga County and to stop some of the crime that goes on. Thank you.
Okay, great. Just a reminder, we need to hear from you. If you have a question for Ron or any one of our panel, please press 0 on your phone at any time. Jim Bissell from the Cleveland Natural History Museum is also with us. Jim is an expert on our parks. Jim also is pleased to tell us his thoughts on why he thinks it's so important to protect our parks at this time.
Thanks, Jim. Parks define an area and protect Geauga's streams, forests, and wildlife. Geauga County parks are among the best in the state. Not only do they provide excellent opportunities for a variety of recreation and family activities, but radical policies that would open them up to reckless drilling, injection wells, and fracking hurt everyone. Once they're gone, they're gone. Protecting Geauga's parks is vital to protecting the quality of life in this county. I'm glad to see that Geauga Commissioner Ron Weish is committed to doing all he can to protect them.
Thank you, Jim. It's good to hear from such an authority on this subject. I couldn't agree more. As a reminder, Election Day is Tuesday, November 4th, and early voting is already underway, and we need to elect Ron Weish as our next Geauga County Commissioner. Let's take another question. Before we do, just a reminder, we need to hear from you. If you have a question for Ron or anyone on the panel, press 0 on your phone at any time. Ava, what is your question?
Yes. Commissioner, I would like to know if you would hire bilingual gentlemen to just do the inspecting and searching in the parks for drug addicts and things of that nature. Some that might know, especially off-duty gentlemen or officers that have perhaps spent their time in doing police work, like my son who was a Navy military police officer, and now he's at home.
Ava, thank you for calling. I think that, as long as we have people, if they're bilingual and they have the qualification, and we can get them in there to do, because we have people coming into our parks that also need, somebody that has a different language than maybe English. And it's very important that we include everybody in Geauga County to be able to come to our parks. Okay, let's try something new. Let's take a poll. Using your phone keypad, tell us how important you think it is to protect our parks. Please press 1 if you think protecting our parks is very important. Press 2 if you think protecting our parks is somewhat important, and press 3 if you think protecting our parks is important.
Just a reminder, you have a question for Ron, press 0 on your phone at any time. Let's take another question. Barbara, what is your question?
Worried about the drugs. I come from Menor. I'm living in Geauga County, and we just had another Berkshire kid get buried yesterday over a drug overdose. What are we going to do about that? Parks are a good priority, but the drugs are terrible out here in Geauga County.
Gene?
Yes, thank you, Barbara, for that question. I see families every day, and I would say the vast majority, are affected directly or indirectly by themselves or someone in their families that they have been very close to their whole lives, being involved with drugs and alcohol. Most people cannot fathom the degree of abuse of something as serious as heroin in the county and opiates. I think what's important, if you can, is to get to somebody early on in this addictive process before the behaviors and the alteration in the brain functioning becomes long-term and destructive. That's one of the major things that have to happen. I also believe that the families that try to help some of these serious addictions are doing so without success because they don't realize they are not talking to their son or daughter, they're talking to the drug. And the purpose of that drugged brain is to keep the flow of the drugs going through that body.
This is Ron Weish. One of the things that I believe we need to do is we need to look at forming some type of transitional housing here in Geauga County. Once we get people out of treatment, the problem is they go back into the same environment they were in when they were using, and nothing gets better. By putting them in transitional housing, we can change their environment, change their thought process, get them back into the qualities of life that make Geauga County a great place to live, get them back into the work skills that they had. None of these people were less than spectacular in whatever they did, and they made a wrong decision, and it ended up that they got addicted to the drugs. But thank you for calling. Great, let's take another question. First name, Jane, what's your question?
I want to know if the Judge Grindell or if others are going to allow oil and gas drilling or fracking inside our parks. And also, if you're elected county commissioner, will you allow oil and gas drilling and fracking on any county property?
Well, Jane, I can tell you that, the only thing that I would have jurisdiction over would be county-owned property. The parks comes under the park commissioners, but by working with the park commissioners and letting them know what the voice of the people is, I will let them know that people don't want that in their parks. They pay for the parks. They've worked hard to maintain those parks, and they pass the tax levies that create our parks. And we need to make sure, and I'm sure that when the people donated that land or sold that land to the parks, they wanted to protect that for today and future generations, and they didn't want that kind of stuff going on there. So, yes, I will do all I can, but thank you for calling.
Yeah, this is Jim Mueller. I'd like to weigh in a little bit on that. My opinion is that, as in all things, the amount of money you'll spend to defend in the courts is the most important thing that we have. I believe that we need, more than anything else, to have a strong commitment to stopping fracking at a local level inside of our parks, and that I believe that the courts will view parks differently than they would ordinary property, which unfortunately the state legislature stripped away the ability of our local communities to stop fracking. Great, let's take another question. What is your question for Ron? Debbie, what is your question?
Hi, I know that Geauga County employees are watching this election very closely because it is a commissioner's race, and they're apprehensive about what might happen with new commissioners in office. What experience do you have in the area of employee management?
I had a career with the Ohio Department of Transportation for 30 years. The last 4 years I was there, I was a labor relations officer, and I took care of problems between the union and management. I thought I did a great job. One thing I think is we need to allow our employees to share their thoughts with their managers. It shouldn't be I tell you what to do and you do what I say. It should be they should be sharing their experience. Most of these people have a lot of experience doing whatever they do in their jobs, whether it's working on the roads, whether it's helping the mentally ill. Whatever they do, they've done that for a long period of time, and they know what's best. And they can share those thoughts. We need to encourage that. We need to encourage some self-direction so they can use those thought processes to save us money and improve our efficiency here in the county. So thank you for calling, Debbie. As a reminder, if you have any questions for Ron, press 0 at any time on your phone keypad.
Yes, we have a call from Mary Ann. What is your question, Mary Ann? Mary Ann?
Yes.
Hello?
What's your question?
My question has to do with services to senior citizens, considering the change in population with the community of Geauga County and the increasing number of seniors. How do you feel about the need for additional services?
That's a good question. I believe that we need to respect our seniors and support the programs we currently have. We have a lot of great programs, and that's all done through a levy, that's paid for by the taxpayers. And obviously
Correct.
The taxpayers feel it's important because they pass that levy unanimously every time it comes up on the ballot. I think we need to make sure that the seniors are taken care of. We have our senior centers. That gives them some place to go. Some of them we even provide transportation through the Geauga Transit. And that's what keeps them independent. That's what keeps them in their homes. That's what keeps their quality of life and keeps their mind active. And we need to do whatever we can to support those people. They built this county, they built this state, and they built this country. And they deserve whatever we can give them to make their life better. But thank you for calling.
Thank you.
Yeah, just a reminder, if you have a question for Ron, press 0 on your phone at any time. Great. Let's take another question from Sandra. Sandra?
Your turn. Hello, my name is Sandra.
Hi, Sandra. How are you tonight?
I'm wonderful, and I think Judge Grendel is a wonderful judge. And I just really wish that there was more opportunities for children to be knowledge about the terror of heroin. You know, there was just a senior who passed away and was buried today that graduated yesterday, or last year, I'm sorry. And I just really need to know why there is not more knowledge of the danger. Besides, there is a wonderful program, but I think it needs to go beyond that. And there needs to be more one-on-one with guidance counselors about this.
Sandra, thank you for calling. You know, the first thing is I think that one of the best things we can do is educate our students, educate the parents. And it's not just an issue that has to do with children. You know, there's adults that even, you know, we've had a lot of people that have had their children taken away from them because, you know, they get addicted to the heroin and they can't provide a stable environment for their children. It costs us all a lot of money. You know, to get them into some kind of a program where, once they get out, if they go for treatment, they get out, we get them into a program where they can have the things they need to change their thought patterns, to get them back into being productive human beings, to get them back into being a positive, role model for their children and a good parent. You know, I'm sure that they were good parents when, they first had their kids. Whatever happened in their life, whether it was some kind of violence, a car accident, they got injured at work, whatever happened. You know, a lot of people, what happens is some of them have a minor medical procedure done. They get pain pills. They get addicted to them. You know, we don't know why they get addicted to them, but we know they do. And then when they can't get them anymore, they turn to the heroin because it's dirt cheap, and it's a deadly drug. I knew that young man that passed away. They buried him today personally. And it's a tragedy. It really is. We shouldn't be losing young people. I could tell you we've had 2 deaths in the last 2 weeks in Geauga County from heroin. And, it's not something that we should be tolerating here. I mean, we got to change the way we do things. It'll save us all money in the long run if we find a better way to take care of this issue. But thank you for calling.
As a reminder, if you have any questions for Ron, please press 0 on your phone at any time. Okay, let's take another poll. What about heroin? Using your phone keypad, tell us how concerned you are about the heroin problem that you see in Geauga County. Press 1 if you're very concerned about this in your own family and in our community. Press 2 if you're somewhat concerned about it, and press 3 if you're not terribly concerned about it at all. Please proceed with that immediately. Thank you. Just a reminder, if you have a question for Ron, press 0 on your phone at any time. We have another great question from Beth. Beth?
Hello, I'm here.
Yeah, Beth, you're on the line.
All right. My question, and it's an observation, that there are a lot of, we just talked about this with your last caller, a lot of adults and parents and mainstream people are becoming addicted or using heroin, but not addicted because they can't get the pain pills that they need. The restrictions on legitimate people who need pain relief are being denied. So they're turning to what's easier to get, and I think that's how a lot of them are becoming addicted. I think people who deserve to be on pain medication should be able to be on it, and there should be some other kind of a way to get control of drug abuse or prescription abuse, that the children are getting into prescriptions, but why punish senior citizens and mainstream citizens, hardworking, middle-class people, because they have legitimate pain issues? They're being denied because the Cleveland Clinic is a very big institution. They're here in Cleveland and in other states and in Abu Dhabi now. And these restrictions are affecting a lot of people who have legitimate pain needs. So what can be done to stop driving them into the heroin market as well?
Yes, we're going to give this to Gene to talk about that specific addiction issue.
Okay. Yes, Beth, thanks for your question. I think one of the things that prevents us from getting an effective pharmaceutical control system is the money that's being made by the pharmaceutical companies. Why do they want it to be controlled and the distribution reduced? They're making a lot of money with this, and so are other parts of the government. But also, too, I think because there's been so much abuse with opiates and now heroin as well, I think in order to try to prevent that from happening to the degree it is, unfortunately, there are some people that legitimately need it. They're being lost due to that policy. It's unfortunate. I understand, because I've seen patients of mine that were really in need of it and had trouble getting it, but I've also seen a lot of them that started out needing it, got addicted to it, and now their pain was secondary to feeding the drug. So it's a complicated situation, but I think with all the multi-billions of dollars that the drug company and the government's making on the drug war, that something could be done more effectively.
Okay, as a reminder, if you have a question for Ron, press 0 on your phone at any time. We've talked a lot tonight, and Ron has shared some great ideas. Using your keypad, can we count on you to vote for Ron as our next Geauga County Commissioner? Press 1 if you plan to vote for Ron Weish for Geauga County Commissioner, 2 if you're undecided, and 3 if you don't think you will vote at all. Thank you. As a reminder, if you have a question for Ron, press 0 on your phone at any time. Great. Let's take another question from Linda. Linda, you're on the line.
Yes. My brother was a lifelong resident in Geauga County, and he died because of heroin. And it started with painkillers, and he eventually sold OxyContin to pay for the heroin, which is a lot cheaper. But we talk about programs and trying to help. Programs cost money. I know Tea Party, I don't know what Ron is, if he's a Democrat, a Tea Party, or a Republican. But the thing is, we need these programs, and where are we going to get the money? And you talk about one-on-ones, that's more people involved. Where does this money come from?
Linda, thank you for calling. I'm sorry for the loss of your brother. It's a tragedy that we lose people to, and so many people with the addiction problem that we're having. The issue of it is we got to look at the county budget and see where we can, I know that we just got done paying off the new safety center that was built. That mortgage was burned, and so we have some money there that we could possibly use for that. Until I'm elected, I really can't get in there and see what the budget is and let you know. I'll review those things and see where we can come up with the money. I know that there's been some other issues that was just passed in the Senate, in the U.S. Senate, that wants to look, because this isn't just a problem in Geauga County or Ohio, it's nationwide. And what they want to do is they want to make it, because right now legislation makes it so a doctor can only treat so many people within a year that have an addiction problem, and they're trying to expand that out and get more people that can help take care of the addiction problem. So I will look and see what we can do to best utilize that money. I think the best thing we can do is try to do some transitional housing, because what we got to do is, the biggest thing we do is we got to make sure that we have these people in an environment that can change the environment they're in, change their thought processes. Because once you get addicted, the only thing that's on your mind is where you're going to get the next fix from for that craving of the drug. And that's what we got to break. We got to break those thought patterns and get these backup people out to be productive human beings again. I'm sure they were productive at one time, and we can get them back there again. And I would appreciate your vote.
We've talked a lot tonight, and Ron has shared some great ideas. Using your phone keypad, can you tell us whether we can count on you to vote for Ron Weish as our next Geauga County Commissioner? Press 1 if you plan to vote for Ron for Geauga County Commissioner, 2 if you're undecided, and 3 if you don't think you're going to vote for him. A reminder, if you have any questions, press 0 on your phone at any time, and you'll be connected and be able to ask him a question directly. We have Fred on the line. Fred, can you hear me?
Hi, Ron. Very pleased that you're running for county commissioner. I have a great deal of admiration for your work. My question is, I know you're probably reluctant to characterize the position of your opponent, but I'm afraid this question does involve a little of that. And that is, how do you see your vision for Geauga County as being different from the position that your opponent in the commissioner's race takes?
Fred, thank you for calling. That puts me in a bad situation, but I'm willing to answer that. I'm not going to hide from anything. I can tell you that from what I've heard, what I've read from, when Mr. Claypool was a commissioner before, when he was appointed in 2012, he had a lot of issues with supporting our seniors. He had a lot of issues with receiving grants for upgrading our roads and upgrading our signs. I can tell you that, he wants us to withdraw from NOACA. And NOACA is the Northeast Ohio Area-Wide Coordinating Agency. It's what they call a Metropolitan Planning Organization. In order to get these federal funds, we have to go through them to get the money, and they supply us approximately $2 million a year to pave our roads, just for paving projects. I know that the project that's going on at Auburn Road and Route 87, the turning lanes now, that is something that's being done with the help of NOACA. NOACA helps us to have clean air, clean water. That's what their main objectives are, that and transportation. And we need to make sure that we're involved there, that we have a seat at the table, and that we bring the tax money back to Geauga County that was paid by Geauga County residents. Thank you for asking the question, Fred.
Just a reminder, if you have a question for Ron, press 0 on your phone at any time. Great. Let's take another question from Fred Johnson. Fred, are you on the line?
Yes. I'd like to know what experience Ron has with economic development or growing jobs in the community.
Fred, thank you for calling. I was sat on we formed a new economic development committee in Middlefield about 2.5 years ago. I sat on that for 2 years. What we did was we looked at ways to market Middlefield and to help the residents of Middlefield try to improve the aesthetics of the village, try to help support the school for the school levy, because one of the things is if you don't have a good school system, you're not going to attract new employers. We've got some new business in Middlefield. We've got a new hardware store there that a lot of people wanted. They wanted somewhere where they could go buy the things they need to work on their house. We've got a new hardware store there, and it's doing phenomenal business. We've got a new factory going up just on the east end of town. We need to make sure that we have jobs. The other thing I want to do is I want to be able to have a workforce development we've got some employers in the area that we've talked to that can't find the people that are qualified to do the jobs they need. And we need to make sure that we can get, and the commissioners, that's one of the things they're supposed to do, is make sure that we can have a proper workforce to be able to sustain what we have here in Geauga County. And I will make sure we do that.
All of us know how important it is to get the word out about Ron's campaign. Using your phone keypad, press 1 if you want a lawn sign. Press 2 if you'll make sure 10 of your friends vote for Ron. Press 3 if you'll volunteer for his campaign. And press 4 if you'll do all of the above. Just a reminder, if you have any questions for Ron, press 0 on your phone at any time. Great. Let's take another question from Diane. Diane, are you on the line?
Hi, Ron. Thank you. I just wanted to state that I also respect Judge Grendell, and I appreciate that he's opening the parks up to more activities for the youth so that they can have interest in nature and not drugs, and I hope you'll support that. I wondered if you could speak to, I know the commissioners already had a large meeting with the coroner, and they decided earlier in the year to delegate funds, additional funds for the war on drugs here in the county. And I wondered if you could speak to what's happened with that so far. And then secondly, I wondered what single item could you say that you would find most important to do as a commissioner for our county?
Thank you for calling. As far as the parks go, I want to protect the parks that we have. I think we have enough money in the park system, from what I've seen at the meetings with the park that I was attended for the parks, that I think we could. I know that there's people that we have that want other uses in the park, and I think what we could do is acquire land and create a park that would be okay for snowmobiles, for ATVs, for dirt bikes, and that way we can make sure that those things are done safely. Because if we just let them go down the trails we have now, there's trees in the way, there's all kinds of chance for injuries and liabilities. I think that we could fund that. I think we could make it user-friendly for everybody in the county to use it for the desires that they have. First thing I want them to do, and I asked them to do that at their meeting, was I want them to do a survey and see what the people of the county want. Don't just go and have 3 people change the bylaws and make a decision for everybody in the county. It's not fair. Those are the people that pay for that and vote to support that. As far as the funds that they allocated for the drug problem, I think they allocated like $600,000. I'm not sure what's been done with that so far. I know that Terry Stupica, our municipal court judge, has she created probably 2.5, maybe 3 years ago, maybe only 2, but I know that she's created an opiate task force that they want to deal with this issue, because we're not going to arrest our way out of it. It's just not going to happen. We would be better off creating some transitional housing for these people to come out of, give them a chance to have a good start on a new way of life, and we can do that. And it's cheaper than having somebody in prison for the rest of their life at $55,000, $60,000 a year. So that's what I would want to do, but I can't answer to exactly what they've done with the money that was allotted by the commissioners up to this point. Thank you for calling.
As a reminder, if you have any questions for Ron, press 0 on your phone at any time. We have another caller, Dan. Are you on the line? Dan?
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you, Dan?
Hello, hi, how are you? Oh, I'm all right. I have a question. I believe in the Lord, and I went to Bible school or Sunday school, however you want to put it, when I was younger, and that's the year that most kids they're most impressionable. What would you think about starting up a drug educational class, kind of like a Bible school, because it's like kind of pre-church kind of thing for young children, to get them involved and get them to know God and that, could we do something like that and have like a school that would educate these kids at a very young age, because that's when they're most impressionable, and they would know about it. Like my nephew, my mother died of cancer, and he watched her rot to the bone. And he donates part of his allowance every month to cancer, and it just shows how much something like that will do for a young child. And if they could have a course that they could go to and learn at a very young age, they would know by the time they got older what it was actually like, and not to get involved in those types of heavy drugs and stuff. Would you?
Dan, thank you for calling. The issue of it is we have freedom of religion in this country. I don't think that we can force that on anybody. I think that if we force that on people, we need to let them find that on their own. I think that educating our children is the best thing to do. If they want to seek religion, and I think that's something that comes from within the home. They can help the kids to decide, and make that opportunity open to them, because, if you force that on them, you might force them away from something that might benefit them later on in life. You need to let them explore those things. But I definitely think we need to start an education system sooner in our school districts, and that's something that, I could be an advocate for with our state and county school boards in order to try to get those things implemented. I mean, the voice of the people is what I want to represent, and all these things are very important. The drug issue is it's a huge issue, and it's costing us a lot of money. I can tell you that I've been out going door to door, and last Sunday we were out talking to a couple, and the lady next door to them, an elderly woman, had to barricade herself in her bathroom because somebody broke into her house and ransacked their house because they were looking for something to steal so they could support their drug habit. I'm sure they didn't start out in life that way, but because of the drug habit, their thinking pattern isn't the same as everybody else. We need to get them off those drugs and get them in a different environment and make them a productive human being again. Thank you for calling.
Just a reminder, if you have a question for Ron, press 0 on your phone at any time. We have another question from Christy. Christy, are you on the line?
Hi. Hello.
Hi.
I have a sort of two-part question. I need to know a little bit more about NOACA and what their contribution is, or whether it's a good thing to be in, and also federal grants, where you stand on having the tax money that is available to us, whether we should be trying to utilize it to the best of our ability, or if we should just try to go with smaller government and turn it back.
Christy, thank you for calling. I think that's an important question. NOACA, what they do is they take the money from the federal government that is paid by us through our federal taxes, whether it's through the gas tax, whether it's through your income tax, whether it's through business tax, whatever the tax structure is. And what they do is we have to be part of that in order to get that money back into Geauga County. It's bringing tax dollars back to Geauga County. And NOACA, what they do is they make sure that we have that we can fund some of our roads to pave them. They make sure that we can mitigate our stormwater so that we don't have, a lot of sediments going into our lakes and into our rivers. Everybody knows what happened up in Toledo this past summer when they had to truck water from Cleveland up to Toledo because they had the algae blooms and you couldn't drink the water. We need to make sure, that's one of the things that stormwater mitigations make sure doesn't happen. They also make sure that we have clean air. They help fund some of the things like the RTA, Geauga Transit. They do those things in order to make sure that we have clean burning fuel transportation. And they fund that to put sometimes new motors in them to upgrade the exhaust so that we can have cleaner air. Once we don't have clean air and we don't have clean water, what do we have? It's not going to be a very good county if we don't have those things. So I will make sure that we return this money back to Geauga County that was paid for by Geauga County residents. But thank you for calling.
Just a reminder, if you have any questions for Ron, press 0 on your phone at any time. Let's take another question from Jane. Jane, are you on the line? Jane? Hello?
Jane, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, what's your question?
What I want to know is, what our county is doing about getting the drug dealers.
Well, I can tell you, Jane, that's a good question. I have been talking to some people. I don't know where I'm putting myself with this, but, I believe that if we have somebody selling drugs, that we need to get them off the streets because they're not doing anybody any favors. And eventually, they're going to end up selling those to a child. I know that not too long ago, probably within the last month and a half, there were some people arrested outside the Newberry High School. And that school houses both the high school, the middle school, and the elementary school. And they were caught outside there within 1,000 feet of that school selling heroin. Eventually, that heroin's going to get into the hands of a child. Or let's say they see the cops coming and they throw it out. And a child finds it. What's going to happen to that child? It's probably going to end up killing them. We don't need that. I could say that, by working at the jail as a volunteer, helping people that are on drugs and alcohol, helping them get their life straightened out, that I will have people arrested. I don't have a problem with that. We need to make sure people are accountable for the decisions they make and for the actions they take. Thank you for calling.
Our time tonight is nearly up. Let's take one last question, and then Ron will conclude the event. Yeah, we have a call from Betty. Betty, are you on the line?
Yeah, I am. Thank you so much. I wanted to know what kind of experience Ron has with dealing with people. I mean, the employees in the county are a little upset about all the rumors they hear in the paper. Even David Lear fight for a job down in Florida. Can you tell me what kind of experience you have dealing with employees and what kind of experience you have with managing big budgets?
Okay, I could say that I worked at the Ohio Department of Transportation for 30 years. My last 4 years there, I was promoted up because of my qualifications into the labor management position. And that was part of the executive leadership team that oversaw a $52 million budget. So I think that qualifies me for a large budget. We made sure that we could staff our employees. We made sure that we could staff their benefits. We made sure that we could staff the projects that we had and the maintenance of the roads. And then there was another, if I'm not mistaken, there was another $50 million that we put out to the construction part of side of ODOT that made sure that we could, upgrade the roads to make sure, like the Route 2 project. I'm all for doing that. I think that we need to have input with our employees. I think that our employees need to be appreciated, because if they're not, we don't need employees that got to look over their shoulder and wonder what's going to happen to them. What are they doing to pay attention to what they're doing on the job if they constantly got to do that? If they constantly got to worry about, I made a mistake. If we don't take a risk, we don't let these people make some decisions. They've been in those positions for a long time. They know what's best. If we allow them to be self-directed and work amongst each other and let them share their ideas with their supervisors, my personal opinion is the supervisor should supply the materials and the equipment that's needed to do the job. And if the guys, if they make a mistake because they took a risk and they tried something different, they shouldn't be fired for that. They shouldn't be reprimanded for that. We should be encouraging the thought process. That's what we should be doing, and I will make sure that that happens. But thank you for calling.
What a great conversation. I hope everyone will vote for Ron Weish for Geauga County Commissioner. Ron, would you like to wrap this up?
Sure. Jim, I'd like to thank you for being here. As a former county commissioner, you know how important these things are. I'd like to give a special thanks to Jane Burkhammer and Jim Bissell for joining us. But most of all, I want to thank the Geauga County voters who joined us tonight. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. And thank you for all sharing your great ideas. We've talked a lot about things tonight, and I want to know what I am committed to protecting, that I am committed to protecting all the things that makes Geauga County such a great place to live. The future of Geauga County couldn't be more important to me. The last thing we need is a radical change. We need smart, sound government that protects seniors, families, our communities, and our county. As a Geauga County Commissioner, I will work tirelessly for you. Election Day is Tuesday, November 4th, and early voting is underway now. I respectfully ask you to vote for me, Ron Weish. Thank you for joining with us tonight. And if we can, we'll try to do maybe something like this in the future. But you can contact me anytime through my Facebook page or through my website. Have a good night.